My mom has high hopes for me to succeed. I was the so-called gifted prodigy she shaped with 600 slaps. If I skipped piano practice, I got slapped. If I went out to play, I got slapped. Willow was the only light in those dark years, but for the sake of my bright future, my mom ruthlessly broke us apart, like tearing apart two young lovers with a stick. Later, I got accepted into the Central Conservatory of Music, and scored first place in the country. My mom was overjoyed and waited eagerly for me to win a prize at an international competition. Just as my therapist urged me to say no and avoid the international competition, I still signed up without hesitation, because, on the list of contestants, I saw Willow's name. I was extremely anxious, wondering what I should say to her when we met, but before I could figure that out, Willow showed up, and with her, her boyfriend, George. George laughed and asked, "Who's that, your ex?" Willow just shook her head faintly. She said, "No, how could I ever like a freak like that?" So before the competition, when a reporter held a microphone to my mouth and asked if I had anything to say to my mom, right in front of tens of thousands of viewers, with my mother staring at me full of expectation, I laughed and coldly spat out a few words. She's a murderer. Chapter 1. My mom didn't have much education herself, but she wanted me to become an artist. That year, Lang Lang, the famous piano superstar, had just won a major award. Countless parents across the country were fired up. And somehow, my mom became one of them. It all started when my music teacher taught me a few simple songs, and then told my mom in awe, "This child is a genius." I've thought about that line countless times. I think the teacher just meant it as a kind, encouraging compliment, but my mom took it too far. She went crazy over it. She had just been about to divorce my dad, who'd lost his job. But that one sentence made her stay. She said, "Mom is betting her whole life on you. If you fail, you'll be letting everyone down." At 5 years old, I was lifted onto the piano bench and made to start practicing. She taped a terrifying schedule above my bed, modeled after Lang Lang's own practice routine she found online. She said I started later than others, so I had to work twice as hard. If Lang Lang practiced 6 hours a day, I had to do 12. Only that way could I become twice as brilliant. I had school during the day, so at night I wasn't allowed to sleep until I finished my hours. The piano clanged through the night. Neighbors would come and complain, "Sandra, you may not need sleep, but we do." My mom ignored them. The elderly woman upstairs banged the pipes every time she heard me practicing at night. Loud, urgent thuds that messed up my rhythm. The next day, my mom threw a dead rat upstairs. The old lady's grandson screamed in terror. My mom shouted, "You old hag, try messing with David's future again, and I'll go to war with you." I heard her yelling at the door for 10 minutes. When she came back, she sat next to the piano bench with a coat hanger in her hand. She said, "Mom's taken care of all the distractions. If you still can't play well, then it's your own fault." I looked at the hanger in her hand and nearly burst into tears. Chapter 2. Learning piano meant regular beatings. Play a wrong note, get hit. Doze off, get hit. Sometimes it was her hand, sometimes a clothes hanger. It all depended on her mood. Afterward, she'd cry and say, "I'm already being so good to you. When we were young, we got beaten worse, and we weren't even allowed to eat after. I'm hitting you to make you successful. It hurts me more than it hurts you. You think I enjoy beating you." One day, my piano teacher noticed the bruises on my hand. She asked what happened. I whispered the truth. She frowned and stayed silent for a long time. I really liked that teacher. She was gentle and beautiful. She lived alone after a divorce and said her daughter, a few years older than me, lived with her ex in Shanghai. She asked how long I practiced piano each day. When my mom came to pick me up, the teacher gently said, "David's mother, no matter what, corporal punishment is never good, and David's only 5, he needs proper sleep to grow." My mom didn't say anything at the time, but she never took me back to that teacher's house again. That day, as she pulled me away, she muttered, loud enough for the teacher to hear, "No wonder her husband divorced her, she doesn't know how to raise kids." Chapter 3. Mom said that only family truly wishes the best for you, so I shouldn't listen to what outsiders say. At 11, I was admitted to the affiliated middle school of the Central Conservatory of Music. A highly respected master broke the rules to accept me as their last disciple. The news shocked our small town. Reporters swarmed our home, beaming with pride. My mom stood before them and shared her parenting wisdom. "I told our David, the piano is your life. If you stop practicing, you might as well die. My discipline is very strict." One time, David played the same wrong note 3 times. I slapped him, and on the 4th try, he finally got it right. Kids need to be hit. They don't know what's right until they've felt pain. It's okay if he hates me now. When he grows up, he'll thank me. All the newspapers were filled with interviews of my mom. The headlines were striking. The child prodigy created by 600 slaps. Many parents envied my mother and came to our home to learn from her. But not everyone agreed. Someone asked, "Isn't this too harsh on a child?" That person was immediately ridiculed by others. "That's why your kid will never get in." Obviously, I went to Beijing. My mom had my dad sell our old home so she could move with me and rent a place near school. Dad stayed behind, sending money on time. On the first day of school, after the principal gave his speech, he asked if any parents had something to share. My mom raised her hand high and took the mic from the host. "Our David is the youngest student in this class, and also the one who started learning piano the latest. But I guarantee the school, he will be the hardest working. One day, he'll become the next Lang Lang. No, he'll surpass Lang Lang." All the students looked at me. I was mortified. I tugged on my mom's sleeve and said quietly, "Please don't say that. Everyone here is talented." My mom got upset. She said loudly, "Then all the more reason to take them as your goal, so you can surpass them." From that day on, no one really wanted to play with me. It was hard for me to fit in. The TV shows they talked about, I hadn't seen. The games they played, I'd never touched. I had nothing to say in any of their conversations. All my time was spent practicing piano. When my mom found out I had no friends, she was pleased. She said, "Geniuses are always lonely." At school, I did everything alone. I ate by myself, studied by myself. Everyone knew I was top of the class in piano, but they also all thought I was a freak. This went on for a whole year. Then the school doctor diagnosed me with depression. At first, my mom didn't understand. She said, "When we were kids, we had nothing, and we still grew up just fine. David's got food, clothes, the best school. What does he have to be depressed about?" Later, maybe after hearing something outside, my mom came home happy. She said, "This is a disease that only artists get. It means you're a true artist. Depression brings deeper inspiration." She picked up the clothes hanger and supervised my practice for the new day. But that day, I didn't practice. I ran away. I climbed to the empty rooftop of the school. It was so high. The wind on the 20th floor was terrifying. As if one careless step could blow me away. I stood at the edge and looked down. A voice inside me screamed, "Jump. If you jump, she'll regret everything." Chapter 4. But just as I stood at the edge of the rooftop fence, trying to summon the courage to climb over, a voice called out from behind me, "David." I turned around and saw a slim girl. She was wearing a white dress, standing in the wind. The breeze blew the hem of her skirt and her bangs aside, revealing a pair of clear, bright eyes. I asked, "Do you know me?" She smiled gently and said, "How could I not? You're top of the class." Her name was Willow. She went to the same school as me and was also studying piano. She asked, "What are you doing up here on the rooftop?" I didn't know how to answer, so I asked back, "What about you?" She said, "To photograph the fire-cloud sunset." She pointed to the edge of the sky and said, "This spot has the best view." Only then did I notice she had a camera with her. I quickly thought of an excuse and said, "I'm here to see the fire clouds too." So that evening, we sat shoulder to shoulder on the rooftop, watching the golden sunset slowly melt into the clouds. Willow's profile in the twilight looked almost dreamlike in its beauty. We talked a lot. Willow said she never expected someone like me would come up here to watch the sunset. She said, "You don't seem interested in anything besides piano." I looked down and replied, "My mom says nothing else matters except practicing." Willow widened her eyes and said, "That's not true. There are so many meaningful things in life." I asked, "Like what?" She rested her chin on one hand and said, "Like having a delicious dinner, taking a hot shower, watching a movie with someone you like, go ice skating, watching the sunrise and sunset." That was the first time anyone had ever spoken to me like that. That day, I got home late and received the worst beating I'd ever had. My mom lashed me with a hanger while screaming like a maniac. She said I'd been out goofing off for 2 whole hours while other kids were studying or practicing. So I had already fallen behind. She had no idea I wasn't out having fun. I had been out trying to die. Coincidentally, my dad came to visit that day. He tried to stop her and reason with her. But my mom shouted hysterically, "You're a useless failure, trying to ruin your own child too." My dad fell silent. He sighed, backed away, and drank alone in the corner, letting my mom discipline me however she wanted. There was nothing I could do. When it came to raising me, my mom had absolute authority. After all, she'd been in the newspapers, and everyone said that without those 600 slaps, there would be no David today. That day ended with me being banned from dinner, and forced to practice 4 extra hours of piano. As I sat down at the bench, my mom stood beside me, panting and barking. "Didn't you say all the time you wanted to die? Then go ahead and die, but as long as you're alive, you practice." Just as I was about to lift the piano lid, my hand paused slightly. I looked up at her, eyes wide. She snapped. What are you staring at? I clenched my teeth and said, You read my diary. In that diary, I wrote nearly every day about wanting to die. She pointed the hanger at me and said, Is that any way to talk to your mother? What do you mean, read your diary? You think I wanted to read your crap? I read it because I'm responsible for you. Now stop talking and start practicing. She saw what I wrote, but she didn't believe I'd actually do it. I heard her say to Dad, Kids always like to indulge in melodramatic whining. David just wrote it to get my attention. He thinks he can threaten me. It won't work. If he's really got the guts, let him drink poison. I'll drink it with him. That night, I lay in bed, body covered in bruises, unable to sleep, while that conversation echoed from the next room. But I didn't want to die anymore, because Willow said she'd wait for me the next day to watch the fire-cloud sunset. Chapter 5. I looked forward to seeing Willow. Back then, I didn't even know what puppy love really meant. I just knew I liked Willow the same way I liked the night sky after a rainstorm, the way a kitten licked my fingers, and the cold beads of condensation on a can of cola fresh from the fridge. Those were some of the very few moments in my life when I truly felt happiness. Whenever Willow turned back to smile at me under a sky ablaze with sunset clouds, my entire world would suddenly feel brighter. Willow always complained that I never stayed long. Pouting, she said, You've only been here 20 minutes. She looked at me and asked, Can't you stay a little longer? She didn't know that those extra 20 minutes each day were already something I had fought tooth and nail to get. I told my mom that the school's performance showcase was coming up, and the teacher had kept me back to discuss which piece I should perform. I had barely ever lied in my life, so when I said that, my legs were trembling so hard it felt like they were about to cramp. But my mom didn't notice. She snorted from her nose and said, You can do the performance, but don't let it interfere with what really matters. She looked at me and said, You do know what really matters, right? I muttered like a mosquito, being number one. She frowned and said, Louder. I shouted, Being number one. At last, my mom nodded in satisfaction. She said, Good that you know. So when Willow asked me why I looked so stressed, I hesitated for a long time and finally told her the truth. I'm scared I won't get first place. Willow looked puzzled. Tilting her head, she said, But you're already amazing. I gave a bitter smile and shook my head. Willow wouldn't understand. She was a kid from a middle-class family. Studying music was just a personal interest for her. It wasn't like me, carrying my whole family's hopes of climbing the social ladder and making a name for ourselves. I didn't know how to explain it to her, so I made a joke instead. I laughed and said, Look, the reason you even noticed me is because I'm top of the class, right? Willow chuckled softly. She said in a gentle voice, That was a lie. I remembered you because I was curious about you. I kept seeing you always by yourself and thought you were really cold. But then one day it rained hard, and I saw you building a shelter for a stray kitten. That made me curious about what you were thinking. It was only later that I found out you were the top student in your grade. So you see, it's not being excellent that makes someone likable. She looked into my eyes and said, I like you. It has nothing to do with whether you're number one. That was the first time in my life anyone had ever told me they liked me, and that sentence broke down every wall I had. I froze on the spot, not responding for so long that Willow's face turned red. She bit her lip and said, Did I say something wrong? No, I said as I hugged Willow. Thank you, Willow. I like you too. I thought that was the moment light finally broke into my life, but I later realized it was actually the last beautiful moment I'd ever have. The next day, in my second class, the homeroom teacher walked in front of everyone. She gestured for the math teacher to pause, and then called me out. David, go to the principal's office. Confused, I asked, What for? The teacher's face gave nothing away. She said, You'll know when you get there. The principal's office was 3 floors up. With every step I took, my legs trembled harder. A nameless dread gnawed at my chest, making my whole body shake. And when I knocked, called out, Excuse me, and pushed open the door to the principal's office, all my worst fears came true, because sitting in the office chair was the principal. And across from him, on the couch, was my mother. Chapter 6. The reason everything fell apart was actually very simple. I used the school's performance showcase as an excuse because my mom would only approve of anything related to piano. But I forgot, she was someone utterly obsessed with vanity. While Willow and I were watching the fiery clouds on the rooftop, my mom made a phone call to my homeroom teacher. She asked whether I would be the closing act at the performance showcase, and expressed her hope that the school could reserve a few front-row tickets for her. She wanted to invite some relatives and friends to watch me perform, and even suggested that it would be ideal if she could be given a chance to speak on stage as a model parent. I completely understood my mom's thinking, bringing relatives to my school to see me perform, then standing on stage to give a speech as the proud mother of a star student. This would give those relatives stories to take back to our hometown. Tales that would surely grow more embellished with each retelling. By then, the legend surrounding her would only grow stronger. What I didn't know, what I never even imagined, was that she would bypass me entirely and call my teacher directly. So when she raised all her requests, she was met with the teacher's confused response, "What performance showcase?" My mom was furious. Her son, who she had raised for over a decade, had lied to her for the first time. She came storming to the school, searched for me everywhere, and eventually found me. But I don't know what kind of malice overtook her, because at that moment, she suddenly calmed down. She didn't jump out and confront me. Instead, she took out her phone, and using the camera function she'd just learned recently, snapped a photo of what she saw. Years later, when I think back on it, I realize it was actually a beautiful photo. Under the golden, cloud-streaked sky, a boy and a girl in school uniforms quietly embraced. But standing in the principal's office, watching as my mom placed her phone on the desk and the photo filled the screen, I felt all the blood rush to my head. My face burned like it was on fire, and yet my whole body felt frozen cold. "Principal," my mom began in a composed and steady voice. After years of media interviews, she had acquired a certain demeanor of someone who'd seen the world. When she spoke in public now, she no longer resembled an uneducated rural woman, but rather a refined and proud intellectual mother. For instance, in that moment, she looked at the principal and said, "Our David is a gifted child who's even been on the news. I trusted in your school's values and discipline, that's why I sent him here. But what has your school done? I saw with my own eyes, a female student seducing my son. My child is simple and honest. Aside from practicing piano, he doesn't understand anything. He's been taken advantage of and doesn't even realize it." The more she spoke, the more agitated she became. That outer shell of elegance began to crack, and her crude, true nature spewed forth with her spit as she ranted through the office. "My son has never lied once in his life. He's been ruined by this little tramp." The principal tried to calm her while calling in Willow's homeroom teacher. He asked, "This girl is in your class, right? Bring her here." In that instant, I could only hear the screaming inside my own mind. I rushed forward, hoarse and desperate. "Don't bring her. She has nothing to do with this. Mom, it's all my fault. I won't lie again. I promise, I'll practice piano seriously from now on." But it was useless. I suddenly realized, the more I begged her, the angrier she became. By the time Willow was finally brought in by her teacher, my mom charged at her, raising her hand. She summoned all her strength and slapped Willow hard across the face. She screamed hysterically, "Do you even know what shame is? At your age, seducing boys already. You're a disgrace. Is this how your mother raised you? Huh? Say something." Willow fell to the floor, clutching her cheek. The teacher stepped in, trying to hold my mom back. I dove to Willow's side, frantically trying to help her up. The entire room was in chaos. No one had remembered to close the office door. It happened to be the end of the second class period, and the hallway outside filled with students and teachers. A crowd gathered at the doorway, countless eyes watching the outrageous spectacle unfold inside. Chapter 7. I couldn't care about anything else anymore. I helped Willow up, stammering, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." But Willow didn't seem to hear my apology. She looked at me with a strange expression I had never seen before, and then her lips moved. What she said came out stiffly, mechanically. My heart sank like a stone. The office suddenly fell into complete silence. Willow said, "I think I can't hear anymore." That slap my mom gave her, it had been too hard. Willow had lost hearing in her right ear. Outside the hospital, the teachers held me back as I stood far away, watching Willow's parents arguing with my mom outside the ward. My mom was standing stiffly, her neck craned forward as she shouted at the top of her lungs. Screaming, she cursed, "Go ahead. Sue me if you dare. Go on. See if I care. I'm not afraid. I'm already in my 40s, and I'll fight anyone who dares hurt my son. And your daughter, raised by 2 college professors and still turned out to be such a shameless slut. Let everyone see what kind of disgrace she is. Aren't you embarrassed?" Maybe it was because they feared how crazy she could get. Willow's parents said nothing more. They silently took their daughter and left. Just before they turned away, they gave me a look, half filled with disgust, half with pity. I looked past them, at Willow, but Willow passed me without saying a word, not even sparing me a glance. My mom was smug about it. She boasted to my dad. They were trying to get me to pay for medical bills. I told them, I don't have money, and even if I did, they wouldn't get a cent. I said, "Go ahead. Make a scene. Your daughter's reputation is the one that'll be ruined. Let's see which school will dare accept her after that. I bet on it, that these academic types have thin skin." And sure enough, they left with their tails between their legs. Didn't even dare ask me for a dime. Then she turned to me and said, "All the money I've saved is for your piano lessons. Do you have any idea how expensive it is to compete overseas? If you succeed, no matter how hard or exhausting it is for us, it'll all be worth it." I sat on the piano bench, my back to her. I didn't speak. I didn't turn around. The shadow in the corner of the room completely swallowed me. I sat there, engulfed in darkness, facing a long future with no light ahead. She didn't hit me this time. The competition was coming soon, and under the spotlight, I couldn't have any visible injuries. But this pain, it was worse than anything I had felt before. The pain tore through me. Lying in bed that night, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. It felt like 1,000 ants were gnawing between my bones. Every time I closed my eyes, all I could see was Willow's face. In the next room, my mom slept soundly, her breathing deep and even. Willow never came back to school after the incident. The very next day, her mother returned to handle her transfer paperwork. All the students started pointing fingers at me. Willow had been well known from the day she transferred in, beautiful and well-liked. So after she left, some classmates started bullying me. Thumbtacks began to appear in my lunchbox. Glue was smeared across my chair. Bugs turned up in my water bottle. One of the student council members threw my backpack down from an upper floor. Then he and his gang pinned me down, one of them jabbing a finger at my face and shouting, "Son of a bitch, you're the one who ruined Willow." They probably expected me to fight back, but I didn't. I just stood there silently, letting their punches and kicks land on me. What was the point of resisting? Deep down, I truly believed they were right. It was my fault. I was the one who ruined Willow. It was all because of me. I never should have met her. Never should have gone to watch the sunset clouds with her. That wasn't something someone like me was supposed to do. I should have just kept practicing piano. After the others left, I went downstairs alone, picked up my backpack, and under the stares and whispers of my classmates, silently walked to the piano room to practice. My mom was very pleased. She noticed that I had become more focused. I didn't care about anything except piano. I ate mechanically, studied mechanically, slept mechanically. The only time I showed any life was when I played. And then I played like a madman. She called my dad, thrilled. I finally trained David into what I wanted. There was a long silence on the other end. Finally, my dad said, "Sandra, let's get a divorce." Chapter 8. My dad had an affair with a new intern at his company. Now that his career was back on track, he was being sent to the US on a business trip before leaving the country. He came to visit me at school. We sat down in the cafeteria. I felt a bit nervous. Over the years, I'd hardly seen him. My mom always felt that my dad visiting me in Beijing would distract me and interfere with my piano practice. So all these years, we had only met a handful of times. Aside from the days when he transferred money to us, we barely spoke. And even when we did talk, the conversation was always cut short by my mom yelling at me to go practice. I knew he was my father, but we weren't close. In a photo I kept, he's holding me up high when I was 3. Back then, he was young and tall. In my memory, that was how he always looked. But now, I saw that he had aged, his face lined with wrinkles, gray hairs appearing at his temples. He studied me for a long time, and finally, in a hoarse voice, said, "David, the person I've failed the most is you. You must resent me, don't you?" I shook my head. There was so much I wanted to say, but in the end, I only managed one sentence. "Dad, you've worked hard. Go live the life you want." I didn't blame him. I didn't blame him for not fighting for custody. I envied him, envied that he could escape this family, while I kept sinking deeper into the mire, suffocated, and somehow had grown used to it. My father left. I went back to practicing piano. I banged on the keys as hard as I could, using Chopin and Beethoven to drown out the sound of my mom's voice as she talked on the phone in the next room. She called every relative and friend, cursing my dad, cursing him for cheating, for finding a mistress, for abandoning his aging wife, for turning evil once he had money. She said, "Everything I did was for the child, for this family." She was always like that, always quick to claim credit for anything good, and just as quick to shift the blame for anything bad. She also came to me and badmouthed my father. "Remember, it was your dad who didn't want you. So if he ever comes back begging, you better not accept him." I wanted so badly to argue with her. I wanted to ask, "And what about you? When Dad lost his job, how much humiliation did you make him endure? Weren't you also planning to abandon me and remarry back then?" I wanted to say that all these years, it was Dad who worked and supported the family. But when you, Mom, became famous as a successful educator, he stayed quietly in the shadows. I wanted to say that our family falling apart wasn't his fault, it was yours. But in the end, I said nothing. I even nodded and replied, "Got it," then added, "I need to practice," and shut the door. I no longer argued with my mom. There was no point. I had realized that this was a war I could never win. No words I spoke could ever make her confront her own wrongs. So I chose silence, to conserve what little of myself was left. The one thing my mom could be glad about was that after I started winning competitions, I began to earn a decent income. So even after the divorce, Our family still had money coming in. A variety show director even contacted me, asking if I'd appear on the show. My mom immediately asked if she could come with me. When the answer was no, she was visibly disappointed, but I still went. As a result, I gained a following. They called me the piano maniac, cheering for me on social media. My popularity at school began to improve again. Some girls even wrote me love letters and left them in my desk drawer with chocolate. Among them, there was one underclassman I had a bit of a soft spot for, simply because her smile reminded me of Willow. I asked her, "What do you like about me?" She looked surprised and said, "Oh my God, I can't believe you'd ask me that. You're so amazing, who wouldn't like you?" I didn't say anything. In my mind, I heard Willow's voice again. "It's not because you're excellent that someone will like you." At that moment, I missed Willow so much, but I hadn't seen her in many years, so I went back to practicing piano, and let everything else drift away. But somehow, my mom found out about the junior student who liked me. I had already prepared myself, waiting for her to lose her mind again, but this time, her reaction completely caught me off guard. She confirmed the girl's name with me several times, then searched her rare surname online. Finally, she beamed and said, "Just as I thought, she's the daughter of the school's honorary board director." Seeing my blank expression, my mom poked my forehead, annoyed. "You silly boy, do you even know who that board director is? He's one of those tycoons on the Huruan rich list," she said. "Do you know how many years of struggle you could skip if you managed to win her over? Hurry up, if you get the chance. Seal the deal before it slips away." I stared at my mom's mouth opening and closing in front of me, but I couldn't hear a single word she was saying anymore. There was only one voice in my head. What a joke. I used to think, at least, I used to believe, that even though she was vain and obsessed with social climbing, she still genuinely wanted me to succeed. But in that moment, I understood, clearly and completely, she didn't. It was like time rewound to that night, when I was barely 5, curled under the covers, listening to her scream at my dad from the next room. "Take your son and get out. Useless piece of trash, can't even earn a proper living. What the hell did I get out of being with you? You leave early and come back late, and all you bring home is 8,000 yuan a month. You call that being a provider? Let's get divorced. You take the kid. I'm not dragging some dead weight around for the rest of my life." Nothing had ever changed. She never cared about me. She abandoned me because I was a burden. She kept me only because I could benefit her. Everything, every word, every action was just for her own gain. Seeing my indifferent attitude, my mom dressed herself up the next day and went directly to the board director, inviting his family to visit our home. As expected, she was politely turned down. When she got back, she was furious, ranting about how shallow and snobbish they were. But thankfully, she didn't keep pushing the issue. She said, "David, win this for pride. If nothing else, when you take the prize at the international competition, all these people who look down on us will eat their words." The competition she spoke of was one of the most prestigious in the field. Everyone in the industry believed I had a real chance at winning it all. My mom was thrilled. Everything was unfolding exactly as she had planned. I asked her, "Have you ever thought about my plan?" She rolled her eyes. "What do you know? What plan could you possibly have?" I fell silent. She was right. I had never had a plan for my own life. That night, I asked myself, if I had the freedom to choose what I really wanted to do, what would I choose? But my mind was blank. I couldn't think of a single answer. All these years, piano had consumed my life. Even if I could choose again, I didn't even know what other choices there were. No, maybe, there was one answer. I wanted to kill my mom, and then kill myself. When that thought entered my mind, I was terrified, but then I realized, it was the only answer I had. If I could choose to do anything in this world, that was what I truly wanted. I realized then that my condition had worsened. All these years, I'd relied on medication to keep my emotions stable, but now, even the medicine seemed to be losing its effect. I went to see my psychiatrist. After listening to me quietly, she said in a heavy voice, "My advice is that you don't compete in the international competition." Truthfully, I had already heard that same voice in my own mind, telling me not to go. That competition was a live bomb, a terrifying catalyst. If I won first place, I would inevitably be propelled to unprecedented heights, but the countdown to my destruction would speed up too. But I couldn't back out. I had to go. Not for my mom, not even for myself, but because on the list of competitors, I saw Willow's name. Chapter 9. It had been so many years since I last saw Willow. Her face had become increasingly blurry in my memory. But her voice, her smile, the way the wind lifted the hem of her skirt, those lived on like an eternal oil painting etched into my heart, never fading. If someone has only ever seen a single beam of light in a long, dark tunnel, how could you possibly expect them to forget what light looks like? My mom also saw the list of competitors. but she showed no reaction at all. Time had passed, so much that she had completely forgotten Willow. Perhaps, even back then, she had never even tried to remember her name. She packed her suitcase, stuffing in several designer gowns she had just bought. She came with me to the competition. There would be interviews after the event, broadcast live by the television station, and she wouldn't miss such a spotlight moment for the world. Before the competition, all participants were checked into the official hotel. My mom found it novel. Once she confirmed it was free, she went off to enjoy the pool and barbecue. I, with my heart pounding wildly, waited in the dining hall. Willow would probably come to eat, right? I was about to see her. I was really about to see Willow. Through all those long and hopeless years, I had fallen asleep night after night repeating her name. I checked my reflection in the glass again and again. Were there any wrinkles in my suit? Was my hair tidy? What should I say first when we meet? Just hi. Long time no see. Would that sound too distant? Then what? I didn't get a chance to finish thinking. Willow appeared. She came in from the door on the other side of the hall. She'd gotten taller. Her white, fitted dress hugged her figure gracefully. Sunlight poured through the window, gilding her brows and eyes with gold. It seemed like nothing had changed. She was still the girl in my memory. I walked toward her, heart pounding with excitement, but in the next second, I froze. Willow was walking arm in arm with a man. He was gentle, graceful, and charismatic, looked like an American-born Chinese. It was clear he was Willow's boyfriend. Willow saw me. She paused for a split second. The men beside her must have noticed her hesitation, and stopped walking too. Together, they looked over at me. After a few seconds, Willow averted her gaze, as if she hadn't seen anything at all. She tugged gently on the man's sleeve and walked away with him to the side. I stood there, sunlight pouring over me, but I had never felt so cold. After a moment of dazed stillness, I turned and followed them, like I was possessed. I didn't want much. I had come to this competition because of her. I never expected her to still like me. I just wanted to say a few things. I wanted to ask if her hearing had recovered. I wanted to say I was sorry, more than anything. I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for lighting up my life. You have no idea how much you meant to me. If not for you, I might have died a long time ago. I wouldn't have made it through all these years. But I never got to say any of that, because I heard Willow talking with her boyfriend. The man asked her in English. That's David, right? The piano prodigy from the China region. Do you know him? Willow pressed her lips together. Silent. The man laughed. Oh, now I remember. You two went to the same school, right? Did you have a crush on him? Willow finally spoke. No, I didn't. The man teased. Really? You don't look like that's the truth. But still, he's impressive. Liking him would have been totally understandable. Willow bit her lip. I didn't. He's very talented. Yes, but he's a monster. He grew up in a horribly dysfunctional family. The man stopped joking. With a tone of pity and superiority, he sighed. I see. Yeah. People from broken homes, they don't know how to love or be loved. Willow nodded and said. Yeah. Once you really spend time with someone like that, you'll see, they're unbearable. I stood there, listening to my verdict. My mind was operating on autopilot, and somewhere in the haze, I remembered a conversation from years ago. Willow and I were chatting beneath the fiery sunset clouds. And she had said, it feels like boys turn out more like their moms, and girls more like their dads. I forgot how I responded to that back then, but right now, it felt like I had fallen into a pit of ice. So this is how it is. I didn't blame Willow for what she said about me. She probably saw the truth about me through what my mom had done, and that means everything she said was right. No one could love me. No one could endure me. This so-called piano prodigy, the mad genius David, was just a shell, and inside that shell flowed the same dark, viscous, disgusting liquid as Sandra. Willow and her boyfriend turned their heads and saw me, not far away. For a brief moment, I saw her freeze. She opened her mouth slightly, as if to say something, but I turned and walked away. It didn't matter anymore. None of it mattered anymore. I went back to the hotel and looked at Sandra lying on the bed. She was smiling in her sleep, clearly having a pleasant dream. I looked at her closely. We really did look alike. Eyes, nose, mouth, the shape of our faces. Sometimes the way I spoke sounded like her. Sometimes the way I thought felt like her. And with that realization, a despair I had never known wrapped itself around me. There would be no hope. Not in this life. Even if Sandra died one day, the parts of her that lived in me would remain forever. Only a final ending could set me free. I looked at the fruit knife in the fruit tray. My hand slowly reached out and gripped the handle. Kill her, I said in my heart. Kill her, then kill myself. I walked toward Sandra. She was completely unaware. The curtains fluttered with the wind, the rustling of leaves outside sounding like the sonata of my fate. The fruit knife slipped from my hand and clattered to the floor. The prelude to murder came to an abrupt halt. I crouched down, hugging my head, trembling violently. No, this wasn't the revenge I wanted. If she died now, she would die at her happiest, well-fed, well-dressed, rich and respected. Her son was about to win first prize at an international competition. Everyone believed she was a model mother, a brilliant educator, a life so radiant and glorious. I wasn't going to give her that ending. I put the fruit knife back in the tray. I lifted the piano lid and started to play. In the flow of music, Sandra turned over in her sleep and murmured something. She was probably rehearsing her speech for the day I won the competition. I smiled. My fingers danced across the black and white keys with precision and strength. So be it. Let the music swell into its climax. Let us together welcome that grand, magnificent destruction. Chapter 10. The days that followed were quiet. I kept to myself, ate alone in the dining hall, returned to practice piano, and didn't make friends with anyone. But one day, a man sat down across from me. It was Willow's boyfriend. His name was George. In clumsy Mandarin, George apologized to me. He said, "I'm sorry, Mr. Chan. What we said the other day probably hurt you, and for that, I sincerely apologize." In that moment, I almost laughed. I set down my fork and looked at George across the table. He radiated a natural, effortless confidence, clearly someone from a wealthy background, a second-generation rich kid. The guy was surprisingly blunt. Usually, when someone says something behind your back and gets caught, they'll just pretend it never happened. Even if they feel guilty, most would rather avoid confrontation. But George had gone out of his way to apologize. I asked, "Do you really feel sorry?" He nodded heavily, then continued to confess in Chinese. "Really, I say true. I was because I detective Willow maybe before like you. So I speak crazy words. Actually, I always respect you much. I often watch your little video." I smiled and said, "Then do me a favor." He asked, "What kind of favor?" I said, "Invite me over to your house." Chapter 11. The last few days flew by. In no time, the international competition was tomorrow. That night, I had a rare dinner with my mom. She wasn't happy about it. She complained I was wasting her time. She was still debating whether to open her speech in Chinese or English, and if it was in English, she'd have to memorize it a few more times. I watched her silently as she revised her speech. After a long while, I spoke in a low voice. "Mom." She was carefully spelling out the word educate. And without looking up, she snorted impatiently through her nose. "What?" I asked. "Do you think you owe me an apology?" She looked up abruptly, frowning deeply. She was about to lose her temper, I could tell, but I repeated myself. "Do you think, over the course of my entire childhood, you owe me an apology?" She slammed her hand on the table. The fork and plate bounced and clattered back down. The loud crash drawing stares from nearby foreigners. She shouted hysterically. "An apology? I raised you with all my blood, sweat, and tears. You have everything now, and you think I owe you an apology?" I silently shoved the last bite of food into my mouth, stood up, and left. She didn't follow me. Maybe it was because the competition was tomorrow. She didn't want to push me too far today. Back in my room, I pulled open the drawer. Inside, a gun lay quietly. I had stolen it that afternoon from George's father's study while visiting their home. Maybe by tomorrow, they'll discover the gun is missing. But it doesn't matter. By then, everything will already be over. Chapter 12. My performance was scheduled for 9 a.m. the next morning. At 6:30 in the morning, my mom got up, buzzing with excitement. She put on her dress and earrings. At 6:50, she came to my room to knock on the door and remind me to get up, but I was already gone. At exactly 7 o'clock, I arrived at a nearby street I had scoped out earlier. From there, it was a 15-minute walk to the concert hall. And from the front entrance to the backstage area, it took another 3 minutes. At 7:10, I walked into a convenience store. It was a winter morning, and the sky wasn't fully bright yet. The street was empty, and inside the shop, the only clerk on duty was dozing off. I bought a bottle of hot juice. At 7:20, I finished the juice. Wandering the street with my hands in my pockets, fingering the gun hidden in my coat, I had learned how to use it during military training, and during my visit to George's house. I had casually confirmed its operation with his father. At 7:40, my mom was frantically looking for me. She kept calling my phone. I turned it off. At 8 o'clock, I went back into the same convenience store. The clerk had changed. Now sitting behind the register was a young Chinese guy, probably the owner's son. As soon as he saw me, he said, "Dude, you're dressed so formally. Got some kind of big event coming up?" I smiled and said, "Yeah, I'm going to a piano competition." He looked at me with envy and said, "Man, you're really something. Not like me. I came here and ended up stuck working at this store. Couldn't even get into a decent school. Feels like I'm wasting my life." I was silent for a moment. Then I said, "Someone once told me something really important. That person's no longer in my life. But I've never forgotten what she said. Softly, I said. She told me. You don't have to be excellent to be loved. He nodded slowly and said. My parents told me that too. He was so lucky. I took a deep breath and glanced at the clock on the wall. It was 8:30. Time. I raised my hand and pulled the gun out of my coat. I told him. Turn around. Hands on your head. His eyes widened in terror. He began to tremble. I said calmly. Just do as I say. Then I fired a shot at the shelf beside me. The recoil numbed my wrist. The sound of the gunfire shattered the silence of the winter morning. And in that moment, it felt like something inside my chest had ripped open, forcing its way out from the roots of my heart. 2 more shots. The shelves crashed to the floor with a thunderous noise. Glass shattered, scattering shards everywhere. The clerk was stunned. He turned around, hands over his head, trembling violently. He said, all the money's in the register. He thought I was robbing the place, and I was. I looked around the convenience store. Finally, I picked up a pack of chewing gum. As I left with that pack of gum, the clerk, somehow finding the courage, called out to me, wait. I remember you. Aren't you that piano prodigy? I smiled, popped a piece of gum into my mouth, then tossed the gun to him. I said, can you do me a favor? The gum thief asked softly. Call the police in 15 minutes. At 8:40, I strode quickly toward the auditorium. A few scattered passers-by walked past me, whispering fearfully about something. I guess they'd heard the gunshot. At 8:55, I arrived at the auditorium and headed straight backstage. My mom was waiting there. She was dressed in a custom-made evening gown, holding the speech she'd polished for so long. The moment she saw me, she rushed up and asked, where have you been? I didn't answer her. At that moment, the clock struck 9. The host announced my name. I stepped out from behind the curtain and sat down at the piano. Silence fell. The auditorium was huge, the domed ceiling looming above. Countless audience members and judges sat below, with dozens of high-definition cameras surrounding the stage. It was said that several contestants before me had choked from nerves and underperformed terribly, but not me. I felt an unprecedented calm. I raised my hands and let my fingers fall heavily on the black and white keys. This was my final piece, my swan song, the curtain call of my long life. After the first bar, I saw the judges' expressions change. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my mother jumping backstage, apparently yelling furiously. I knew exactly what shocked them. The piece I was playing was completely different from what the host had just announced. I was playing La Campanella, one of the top 10 most difficult piano pieces. It wasn't my competition piece. In previous practice sessions, I had always struggled with it. Suddenly switching pieces now, in my mother's eyes, meant I had ruined all her years of effort. But I didn't care. The judges and audience faded from my world. In the stillness, it was just me and the piano. I knew it better than I knew my own body. It gave me glory. It gave me pain. I loved it, and I hated it. And this piece, this was our final goodbye. The performance ended. Silence. I exhaled deeply and rose to bow. Moments later, the auditorium erupted in thunderous applause. An almost perfect performance. The judges began scoring. When the host announced the score, my mother rushed onto the stage, overwhelmed with excitement. Grabbing my hand, she exclaimed, my son is number 1. Undisputed first place. I had been the last contestant, and my score was significantly higher than the others. A clean lead. I turned my head and looked at my mother's face, distorted with excitement. She pulled out her speech, one she'd prepared long ago. Sure enough, reporters surrounded us. She stood in the middle, basking in attention, reciting the opening line. I'm proud of my son, David Chan. Then she gazed at me with motherly affection. It looked like the ending of a Hollywood family film. The son achieves his dream, and the mother beams with pride. A reporter held a microphone to my face. Is there anything you'd like to say to your mother? Under my mother's hopeful gaze, in front of tens of thousands of spectators, I smiled and coldly said, she's a murderer. My mother's face instantly changed. I said no more, because in the next second, the doors of the auditorium swung open. The police entered and walked straight to me. My smile grew brighter. For once, heaven had helped me. Every moment had aligned perfectly. The entire venue was in shock. Reporters, thrilled by the spectacle, raised their cameras toward me. Many began questioning my mother. Ma'am, what crime did your son commit? Why is he being taken away by the police? He just said you're a murderer. What does he mean? My mother stood there, mouth agape, unable to say a word. It wasn't supposed to be like this. This was supposed to be the most glorious moment of her life. She had prepared that speech for so long. She was supposed to be interviewed, broadcast across the country. Everyone would talk about her great motherly dedication. She'd be on TV, sharing her parenting success, admired by all. But why? Why had it turned out like this? Chapter 13. Mother. Dear mother, the world is cruel like this. because we are bound by blood. You were able to use raising me as a way to complete yourself, and I could only destroy myself in order to destroy you. Chapter 14. My mother's world began to collapse on that day. The news of me being taken away by the police right after winning the championship exploded like a bomb. Every media outlet was reporting on it. Every keyword associated with me was headline grabbing. Together, they were shocking. Genius, criminal, success, failure, glory, ruin. My mother got the fame she had always dreamed of, just not in the way she expected. All these years, she had tightly bound herself to me. Wherever my accomplishments were mentioned, she made sure to insert herself and boast loudly. So when I fell, it was inevitable that all eyes turned to her too. What's more, I was still legally underage when arrested, clearly classifying me as a juvenile offender, so the topic of parenting couldn't be avoided. A wave of viral think pieces emerged on public accounts. On social media, influencers wrote lengthy posts analyzing our relationship as a textbook case of symbiotic strangulation. In psychology, they wrote, symbiotic strangulation refers to a relationship where only one person's will and needs are allowed to exist, and the other is reduced to a tool for fulfilling that dominant demand. Looking at Sandra's life path, it's easy to see that she's always resented her fate. She considered herself excellent, but married someone far below her expectations. At first, she pinned all her hopes on him, but reality quickly disappointed her. Criticism and blame became the main tune of their daily life, and when that man's career finally began to recover, he, unsurprisingly, cheated on her and left without a second thought. All the resentment, frustration, and bitterness she had accumulated over the years were ultimately poured into her last remaining gamble, her son, David. What David did was a long-suppressed eruption, aimed at shattering the prison that confined him. Soon, more revelations surfaced. Our school's nurse came forward and testified that I had been diagnosed with depression when I was barely 10 years old. Public opinion exploded again. It was obvious that over the years, my condition hadn't improved, it had only worsened. As my legal guardian, Sandra's role in that outcome was self-evident. Old newspapers from over a decade ago were dug up. The headline, now horrifying in retrospect, read, "A genius boy forged by 600 slaps." Public sentiment had completely shifted since then. People now said, geniuses are born, not beaten into existence by 600 slaps, but 600 slaps are enough to completely destroy an ordinary child. While in confinement, I was also interviewed by reporters. They asked, "Why did you say your mother is a murderer? Do you mean she murdered your life? Do you hate her? If you had a second chance, would you choose to be just an ordinary person?" I stared out the window at the clouds. The sun was setting. I was only 17, and yet I had already experienced both the peaks and the valleys of life. In the end, I answered none of their questions. I was tired, exhausted. The doctor gave me a shot of sedative, and I collapsed into the pillow, sinking into a deep, dark sleep. Chapter 15. In the autumn of the following year, I returned to the country. Before returning, I went to see my father. He was playing with my younger half-brother, his child with another woman, on the lawn in the courtyard. I watched them quietly for a moment, left a gift, and left without meeting him, since he had already begun a new life. Then let him say a clean, thorough goodbye to everything from the past. Besides that, Willow had tried to reach out to me as well. I watched the media interview with her and George. In the video, George sighed. He said he didn't blame me for stealing the gun, only that he thought I was truly pitiful. And Willow cried. After a long bout of choking sobs, she said, "Maybe I could have talked to him. Maybe we could have pulled him back. They really were good people, but I no longer needed anyone to pull me back." After returning home, I went to see my mom. She had suffered a devastating blow. Her life had lost all hope. In our hometown, where she had once hoped to return in glory, now everyone either cursed her or laughed at her. Her hair had turned completely white overnight. In the dead of winter, she had gone out and was struck by a car on an icy road. When I visited her, she sat in a wheelchair. Her face was deeply sunken. She looked 20 years older than she had just 1 year ago. The moment she saw me, she erupted into a stream of curses. I crouched down in front of her, looking at this frail old woman. In that instant, I was no longer afraid of her. This was my final revenge. I looked into her eyes and calmly said, "Mom, look at me now. I have nothing left, only a criminal record, long-term reliance on medication, and no survival skills. I'm a complete failure. Your 20 years of effort, all ruined just like that. And you're a total failure too. The biggest mistake of your life was giving birth to me. No one will ever want to be with you again. I won't come to see you anymore. From now on, your life will be confined to that wheelchair. Oh." And I spoke to the nurse at the front desk. "They'll let you watch more television. You'll see how our story is played over and over again as a cautionary tale." When I left the hospital, my mother screamed behind me in despair. She knew I would never return. Only someone who truly despised another to the core would destroy both their own future and the others. And now, She was old and had nothing. In the end, I heard her mutter, "I was too soft-hearted. I should have divorced him back then and kicked both of you out with nothing." I didn't look back. Let her live in that regret. Let it torment her for the rest of her life. But I was wrong. There would be no rest of her life. 3 days after I left, my mother, having lost all hope, went to the rooftop and did what I had wanted to do more than 10 years ago but ultimately never did. Chapter 16. I didn't know about her death, because at that very moment, I was also standing on the top floor of a school building. The sunset poured down like blood, and I knew, this time, Willow wouldn't be there to save me. One leg had already stepped over the railing. The building was still just as tall. The wind blew past. Everything felt so empty. There was nothing left for me to hold on to. The only thing I had wanted, to destroy my mother, and then destroy myself, was already done. Willow, sigh. All those people who had once brought me fleeting warmth had now left me, each beginning their own new life. And I had been broken, inside and out. I no longer wanted to be a burden to anyone. My other leg crossed over the railing. Suddenly, a little boy's voice came from behind me. "Don't do it." I turned around and looked at him. He was maybe 5 years old, with a close-cropped haircut. Looking at me timidly, he said again, "Don't do it." He walked closer and reached out his hand. He said, "You have to stay alive." I said, "Don't come any closer." The edge of the rooftop was dangerous, and I was afraid he might fall, but it was like he didn't hear me. He kept walking toward me, still saying, "You have to stay alive." I didn't want him to get closer, so I had no choice but to climb back over the railing. As my feet landed back on the rooftop, I saw him smile. "That's more like it," he said in his clear, childish voice. I held his hand and led him to a safer spot. I asked, "Why are you here alone? Where are your parents?" He looked down, a sad expression on his small face. He said, "Mom wants to divorce Dad. She doesn't want me anymore." I was really sad, but I told myself it's okay. The TV said life is really long. Even if my mom and dad don't love me, maybe when I grow up, someone else will. Oh, and my music teacher really likes me. She's teaching me to play the piano, and she says I'm a genius. I froze. Suddenly, something clicked. When I turned to look again, the little boy was gone. There was no one by my side, only the gentle wind brushing past me. No little boy. What I had seen was myself at 5 years old. I broke down and cried. I wept with all my strength. So this is what it meant. After everyone had left me, the one who saved me in the end was me. I looked up. The clouds on the horizon were bathed in the glow of sunset, shining like molten gold. Many years ago, a girl had said to me beneath skies painted by burning clouds, "There's more to life than piano. Like having a good dinner, taking a hot bath, watching a movie with someone you love, going ice skating, watching the sunset and sunrise." That girl was no longer mine, but these skies of flaming clouds, they were still mine. I walked down from the rooftop. I would go have a delicious dinner. I would take a hot bath. I would watch a movie. Life is still long. Maybe, just maybe, I'll meet someone I love. On the very day I rose to the top of the class rankings, I couldn't wait to share the news with my beloved imperial consort Willow. Unexpectedly, she asked me to admit I cheated, just to help a poor classmate in our class. With a sarcastic tone, she said, "Oh please, how could you possibly rank first? Besides, Makoto really needs that scholarship. Your family's a bunch of nouveau riche, can't you just give it up for him?" And not only did I not refuse, I immediately agreed without hesitation. But in the very next second, I sent the entire call recording straight to the principal's office. I said, "Sorry, I want to transfer schools. Apparently, being nouveau riche means I'm not allowed to be top of the class." The principal was stunned. After looking into the matter, Willow was immediately issued a disciplinary warning. Furious, Willow blocked me, declaring she never wanted to see me again. And indeed, she didn't see me when school started again, because I had already transferred to the elite experimental class of the city's top high school, as the lowest-ranked student. Chapter 1. After enduring a string of low points, taunts from rivals, betrayal by my childhood friend, and a carefully orchestrated campaign of social isolation, I still came out on top, ranked first in the entire class. My father now believes I'm a once-in-a-generation genius. He's planning to pull some strings to transfer me into the elite experimental class at the city's top high school, where talents from all corners gather, he declared. Gauss spent a whole night on that problem. My son solved it in seconds with Gauss's formula. Newton was in his 20s when he grasped the 3 laws of motion. My son mastered them at 16. I straightened my back, chin held high, and asked, why were they born before me? Was it the slow birds fly first, or were they simply afraid of my brilliance? My father's eyes suddenly turned distant, heavy with meaning. He let out a deep sigh and said, "It is because kings must never meet. My son, I've watched you grow with pride, and now, At last, I, the emperor, can pass down my throne in peace. My child, I've watched you grow up with pride, and now, I, the emperor, can finally pass my throne to you in peace. My dad's name is Caesar. Everyone around him jokingly calls him the emperor, and since I was little, he's always called me Crown Prince. That joke was something only the two of us ever took seriously. He said, to wear the crown, you must bear its weight. George, you must become a worthy emperor. Do you understand? I nodded solemnly and replied, I, the emperor, know exactly what must be done. After I posted on WeChat declaring my triumphant rise to the top of the rankings and my successful coronation, Willow called, with mockery in her voice. She said, George, please, you, first place, trying to get my attention by cheating, is that fair to those who actually work hard? I took a deep breath. A worthy emperor must keep his emotions hidden and strike only when the time is right. I asked, oh, then tell me, who exactly is my success unfair to? She paused, then let out a snide laugh as if she realized something. You're just jealous of Makoto and targeting him on purpose. I can't believe I didn't see how gross you are before. You better confess to cheating and return first place to him, or I won't talk to you next semester, I replied calmly. But I didn't cheat. You can check the surveillance footage or ask the teacher to give me another test. Willow was stunned for a moment, then snapped irritably. Do you really have to be so petty? You know Makoto needs that scholarship more than you. Your family's loaded. Can't you just let him have it? I looked up and sighed. Back when I was just crown prince, I had promised her an empire as my dowry, to make her my empress. Who could have known that after meeting Makoto, she'd change her heart? Every time we argued, she'd side with outsiders against me, the emperor. I used to let it slide for the sake of our childhood bond, but now, I am the emperor, and how dare Willow, a mere subject, speak to me like that? It's time she learned a lesson. I agreed and said, all right, I'll talk to the principal. She froze for a second, clearly not expecting me to be so agreeable this time. Then she scoffed and said, you know what? Forget it. I'll forgive you this once. Just don't use such cheap tricks next time. I immediately emailed the recording of our conversation to the principal's office. Postscript, sorry, I want to transfer schools. Apparently, nouveau riche kids aren't allowed to be number one. She messed with me, but this time she hit a wall of steel. No one in class wanted to be friends with me, so I'd go straight to the office to ask teachers for help. Even the principal knew who I was. My grades had been personally raised up by the hard work of every subject teacher. Aside from Willow, probably no one ever doubted the legitimacy of my scores. Soon, the school administration called my dad to ask about the situation. As it happened, the transfer process was already finalized, so he took the opportunity to make it official. From then on, I had nothing to worry about. When the new semester began, I heard that Willow's disciplinary punishment and public reprimand caused quite a stir. She declared she never wanted to see me again. And of course, she didn't, because by that time, I was already in the elite experimental class of the city's top high school, proudly ranked dead last on the placement test. Chapter 2. I stared at the test paper, unable to recover for a long while, murmuring to myself, how could this happen? Wasn't I supposed to be a genius? The girl sitting next to me leaned over, glanced at my paper, and couldn't help but burst into a laugh. Under the stern gaze of the emperor, she immediately corrected herself. Of course you're a genius, but even if you're 1 in 10,000, well, our country has a population of 1.4 billion, so, keep a calm heart. I nodded in satisfaction and rewarded her with a bottle of milk. Classmate, I look forward to learning from you in the future. She propped her chin in her palm, looking amused. Then she said, Crown Prince, you really don't remember me. My dad and your dad are good friends. Oh, now I remembered, she's Uncle Sue's daughter, Anna Sue. We met once at some party. Uncle Sue always bragged about how amazing his daughter was, which neither my dad nor I enjoyed, so we ignored him. But now, a worthy emperor must humbly accept wise counsel. I might need her help solving problems from now on. So I gave her a modest smile and said, of course I remember. That night at the party, you were the prettiest of all. My eyes had room for no one else. Moderate praise helps strengthen the relationship between ruler and subject. Anna's hand slipped, and she smacked her forehead on the desk with a thud. Startled, I reached out to support her. Anna, are you okay? It took her a while to lift her head, turning her face away to look out the window, refusing to look at me. Ears completely red, she mumbled, I'm fine, just low blood sugar. I nodded. Oh, then I said nothing more, lowering my head to seriously correct my memorials, aka test mistakes. An emperor is a very busy man. The homeroom teacher was a serious-looking woman. After briefly introducing me to the class, she began the lesson. It was my first time experiencing such a strong academic atmosphere. No cliques, no isolation or gossip, only enthusiastic discussions about problem-solving strategies. With Anna's help, I quickly adapted to the new environment and received an encouraging welcome. She said, "If you don't understand something, come ask me." Only 2 people didn't seem too fond of me. One was David, the strict class discipline officer. In his eyes, I was just another rich kid trying to gold-plate his resume, wasting a valuable spot and sucking up education resources. The other was Alicia, the class goddess and straight-A student, who kept her distance from everyone. Anna, being her childhood best friend, brought me over to introduce us. She said, "George, this is my bestie. She's ranked number 1 in the whole grade. If even I can't solve something, you can ask her too." My eyes lit up, and I was just about to extend a hand in greeting when I heard a cold voice. Alicia didn't even look up, just gave a light snort and said, "If you have time to chat, you might as well do 2 more sets of basic exercises." She had a delicate nose, soft lips, and even the sunlight seemed to favor her. Anna poked her in the head, displeased. "George is my friend. Mind your tone." "No matter, talented beauties tend to have a bit of a temper. I, the emperor, am always generous and kind." I patted Anna lightly and said, "It's fine. Number 1 always has a problem with other number 1s. It's natural." Anna, speechless. Alicia, speechless. She finally lifted her lashes and gave me a cold sideways glance, as if I'd insulted her. Later that afternoon, the homeroom teacher reshuffled seats based on our test results, and Alicia became my new desk mate. She actually took the initiative to speak, pointing her slender finger at me. "Classmate, it's true that number 1s don't like each other, but you are number dead last." I was furious. "How dare you, Alicia, insult the emperor like this in the grand court of academia? Just you wait." Chapter 3. The driver Pablo, who usually picks me up and drops me off at school, has a severe case of hemorrhoids and needs surgery. During this time, I originally planned to take the bus home by myself, but Anna took the initiative to invite me into her family's car when she found out. She said, "Crown Prince, it's on the way, let's go together." I thanked her and then corrected her. "I'm not the Crown Prince." Anna thought I was upset and quickly explained, "Sorry, I didn't mean to give you a nickname." I nodded and replied, "I know, but I've already ascended the throne. I'm the emperor now." Anna was completely dumbfounded. Seeing how serious I looked, she pinched her arm hard to stop herself, but the corners of her mouth still curled up uncontrollably, until the driver finally couldn't hold back and snorted with laughter. Anna broke completely. Goose-like laughter echoed in the car the whole ride. I calmly took out my earphones and started listening to English audio. As I got off the car, Anna called after me. She said, "Crown Prince, no. Emperor, will you still be riding in this humble commoner girl's car tomorrow?" I nodded and replied, "Anna, you've truly won my imperial favor. I'll work hard and keep being your desk mate." She widened her eyes, and the teasing curve at the corners of her lips froze. Her pretty face flushed red in an instant. Under my concerned gaze, she became flustered and stammered, "Why, you should get going now." She waved her hands in a panic, rolled up the window, and quickly drove away. The next day, I brought Anna a bottle of milk as usual. This scene was spotted by Alicia, who happened to be stretching and rubbing her shoulders. She frowned instinctively. After we returned to our seats, I tried talking to her, but she ignored me. Last time in the math quiz, I got 8 out of 10 questions wrong. The math teacher sighed deeply and told me to come to her office after class. Of course, I was happy to. I went often, but each time I had to pass by Alicia. After being called up for the nth time, Alicia finally couldn't take it anymore. Her repressed morning grumpiness was about to explode. She complained, "Which question don't you understand? I'll just teach you." I accepted, reluctantly. 2 days later, while she was explaining a problem to me, she suddenly clutched her chest in pain. I poked her with the tip of my pen and asked, "What's wrong with you?" She slowly turned her head to look at me and said in annoyance, "I think you've stressed me into an irregular heartbeat." All right then. I figured she was basically a half-official imperial tutor now, so I handed her my own bottle of milk. I said, "Teacher Alicia, don't be mad. Calm down. I'll keep working hard." She couldn't explode on me anymore and could only take the milk with a pout. Was she upset because I didn't bring her one before? I probed gently. "Should I bring one for you next time too?" Her tone was full of complaint. "I had to lecture you till my mouth went dry before I got one bottle from you. Anna just gives you a ride, and you bring her milk every day. Knowledge really is worthless these days." I frowned and retorted, "You can't say that. Knowledge is priceless." Alicia snorted and ignored me again. I was about to go ask Anna a question when Alicia turned her head and pretended to sleep, refusing to move and let me pass. Left with no choice, I had to use that trick. I have dermographism, also called skin writing disease. So I used a pen to write big characters on my arm and stretched it under Alicia's desk. It said, "Don't be mad anymore. I'll bring it for you from now on." The next second, she gasped. Her pupils shook. "Are you allergic?" I replied, "Nope. It doesn't hurt or itch. Don't worry." After I explained, her lips pressed tightly together. She looked both angry and helpless. I asked cautiously, I'm trying to make it up to you, aren't you happy? In ancient times, there were heroes who carved words into their flesh to show loyalty to the nation. Today, here I am, Emperor Wang, humbling myself to mingle with the commoners, getting a tattoo just to fool people. Quite the charismatic act, isn't it? Alicia blushed to the tips of her ears when she heard this. She rested one hand on her cheek, hiding part of her face with her fingertips, and said softly, Fine, since you're so sincere, from now on, you can ask me for help with other subjects too, not just math, but you can't pull this kind of stunt again, got it? Wait, really? I was overjoyed, but I couldn't help feeling a little suspicious. Is milk really that popular? It's from my dad's friend's factory. They deliver it to me every day. I only gave it to Anna because I thought it tasted bad. No idea how the girls ended up loving it. Chapter 4. Just as I was about to get in the car, I noticed Anna's expression didn't look too good. At the same time, there was someone else standing nearby. Alicia looked at me and smirked. My driver's unavailable today too. Mind if I squeeze in with you guys? I nodded and stepped back, planning to sit in the front passenger seat. Anna and Alicia spoke up at the same time. Wait a second. Before they could finish, a familiar voice cut in. George, who are they? I turned my head. It was Willow, who I hadn't seen in a long time. She looked grim, staring daggers at the three of us. I asked her back, what are you doing here? Willow was at a loss for words. Her gaze dodged a little, and she awkwardly tucked a stray hair behind her ear. She said, Didn't Pablo get hospitalized? I came to see if you wanted to ride in our car. I replied, No need. The moment I rejected her, her expression turned sour with embarrassment and frustration. She snapped, George, you ditched me without a word and transferred to this crappy, unfamiliar school. Fine. I didn't even make a fuss when you ratted me out and even offered you an easy way to save face. And now what? You don't appreciate it at all. She glared at me and added, If you keep acting like this, I'm seriously done with you. When I stayed silent, Willow approached with a cold face and tried to grab me, only to be blocked by the book in Anna's hand. Anna rolled her eyes and said, Hilarious. If our school is crappy, then what's yours? A landfill? Willow's face turned bright red. She bit her lip and snapped, I'm talking to George. What's it to you? Anna replied, enunciating each word clearly. How dare you? Even the Emperor's name isn't something you can just throw around. Go back to where you came from and stop getting in the way of his studies. Willow's expression twisted in anger. She clenched her fists so tightly her nails dug into her palm and hissed, George, let's see if you're man enough not to regret this. Regret? I'd rather use that time to solve one more question. While the two of them were facing off, Alicia silently handed me a set of listening comprehension exercises. She said, These are based on your weak areas. The circled parts are required, rest is optional. Tears of gratitude nearly welled up. I said, Thank you, Teacher Alicia. She smiled and lowered her head to continue reading. When Anna finally returned triumphantly, she looked frustrated. She pouted and complained, Your Majesty, I chased that crazy girl off, and you didn't even look up at me once. I took off my earphones and nodded to show my appreciation. I said, Anna, you've done a great service in defending your emperor. You shall be greatly rewarded. With your assistance, how can I not bring peace to the realm? Her eyes lit up and she replied, My thanks, Your Majesty. I'll continue to do my best. At the same time, she cast a subtle glare at Alicia, who looked utterly unamused. The whole ride, the two of them sniped at each other with sarcasm, while the driver occasionally tried to mediate. I started missing Pablo's quiet and reserved presence. Come to think of it, was his silence all this time just because his hemorrhoids hurt too much? Chapter 5. Over the weekend, while I was casually scrolling through WeChat posts as usual, I saw an official couple photo of Willow and Makoto. The caption read, Rather be a poor man's wife than a royal concubine. From now on, I'll only be your devoted partner. So she pulled me out of her block list just to show me this. She really likes broke guys. Is she trying to live out some humble wife helps ambitious man rise to glory storyline? Is this a kink? I don't get it, and I'm not giving it a like. Next post. Mom. Life is a vast wilderness. Snowy mountains, highways, grasslands, plus the classic arms wide open pose. Cliché. Lacks originality. No like. The next one. If you love me, then say it. A couple's motorcycle photo shoot in the hills, blatantly violating traffic laws. No like. Then came a photo of Anna in a flowing lilac chiffon dress, figure skating. I gave it a like and commented, flawless facial control, perfect proportions, like a magazine cover, truly pleasing to the eye. Alicia quickly replied under it, The only reason I liked your selfie was because it took guts to post that body, not because I thought you looked good. Soon after, Willow called me. She asked, Don't you have anything you want to say to me? I answered. Nope. She suddenly scoffed and said, I was going to forgive you if you just apologized and we'd stay friends. But clearly, you're still so pathetic. Now even if you beg me, I won't forgive you. Let's just delete each other. My boyfriend doesn't like it, I replied. All right, goodbye. I ended the call, deleted her, blocked her, all in a single, decisive imperial strike. Why didn't I do it earlier? Because a sovereign of my caliber must not act on petty whims or fleeting emotion. An emperor's heart must be vast, his vision infinite. Nothing escapes my all-seeing gaze. I study the rise and fall of dynasties, and I know well, isolation breeds downfall. Thus, I patrol the realm of WeChat moments with tireless diligence to grasp the shifting tides of the mortal world. But as of today, Willow is no longer a citizen of my empire. She has been exiled without the possibility of return. Her name, struck from the records. Just as I was about to inspect Anna's latest offerings, a message from Alicia pierced through the noise like a royal decree. She wrote, I've compiled a few new types of math questions, solve each using at least 2 methods. At that moment, a surge of divine energy coursed through me. I seized my pen, the Emperor's sword, and waged battle against logic and numbers. When the final theorem bowed before me, the hour had already passed midnight. Bathed in the cleansing light of intellect, I found serenity, and drifted into slumber, triumphant. Did I forget something? No matter. If it were truly worthy of an emperor's attention, it would have remembered me. Chapter 6. Good news. I've improved quickly and jumped to second to last place in the monthly exam. Bad news. That's only because the last place student took a leave of absence to attend a physics competition. Anna tried to comfort me. Your Majesty, you should compare yourself with your past self. You scored 32 more points than last time. That's amazing. Even Alicia, surprisingly, agreed. Yeah, at this rate, you'll catch up in no time. I had just nodded when my new deskmate David let out a cold snort. He said, dreams are fine, but at least make them realistic. I don't believe someone who got in through connections actually cares about studying. Who knows how those scores even came about? Anna frowned. What's that supposed to mean? I held her back and said calmly, are you suggesting I cheated? David adjusted his glasses and said, I never said that, but I do have the responsibility to remind you, cheating is taken very seriously in this class. Now things were getting interesting. If someone targets me, that means they're jealous, and if they're jealous, it means I'm doing something right. A qualified emperor must be tolerant. Yes, but that doesn't mean I'll let slander go unpunished. I leaned in close to his ear, patted his shoulder, and gave a dark chuckle. Do you know what happened to the last guy who accused me of cheating? David swallowed hard. He was clearly nervous, but still forced himself to raise his voice. What, are you going to use your fancy background to bully people? This isn't your private elite school where you can do whatever you want. His raised voice caught the attention of classmates nearby who had been discussing questions. After they learned what happened, several people began defending me. Someone said, David, you've got the wrong idea about George. He's really serious and hardworking. No way he'd cheat. Another added, yeah, and he's sharp too. He asked me a question last time and even offered an alternative solution I hadn't thought of. Someone else said, don't judge people with prejudice. If he got into our class, he must have passed all the admission criteria. If you've got doubts, go ask the homeroom teacher. David's face turned pale, but he still tried to hold his ground and glared at me. Don't get cocky. I'll be watching you. What did I ever do to him? Alicia later explained. Back in our second year of high school, there was an Olympiad math competition held at your old school. David and I both attended. A girl accidentally knocked his glasses off and broke them. He asked her to pay for it, but she burst into tears. Then some guy stepped in to defend her and punched David. The more I listened, the more familiar this sounded. Then Alicia added, and coincidentally, that same girl who came to see you at the school gate last time, that's the one who broke his glasses. I was speechless. I turned to glance at David. He was angrily drawing a do not cross line on the desk, looking like he wished he could teleport away from me. Chapter 7. Since then, wherever I went, I always felt a gaze following me like a shadow. I stretched lazily and strolled leisurely. Not bad. I, the Emperor, naturally deserved to have an imperial chronicler recording my words and deeds. This is the kind of treatment I, the Emperor, should receive. Although, there was always this faint, inexplicable sound of someone grinding their teeth nearby, until one day, I was late, right during the homeroom period with our head teacher. She stared at me for a long time, then suddenly ordered me harshly to stand in punishment at the front of the class. Besides David, who wore a gloating grin, everyone else looked a little surprised. I was probably the first student in this class to ever be punished like that. Anna and Alicia frowned deeply, opened their mouths as if to say something, but I subtly raised my hand to stop them. I was late, and the teacher punished me. But if the teacher is late, I don't get to punish her. That's called perspective. It took her 30 years to get up on that podium, but I only needed to be late once. Isn't that success? I joyfully flipped my mindset and actually started finding the punishment kind of fun. After class, the head teacher called me to her office. She said, "George, do you know why I made you stand as punishment?" I responded sincerely, "Because I was late." Her eyes grew a bit complicated, like she was holding back anger. She said, "Being late is a small matter, but don't you think you should explain why you were late today?" I answered, "My alarm broke, and I couldn't get out of bed." The head teacher sighed, pulled out her phone, and showed me a video. The footage showed me cornering a girl in a narrow alley. She was sitting on the ground, trembling. I stood over her, saying, "You don't need to know who I am, and don't tell your parents, or else." At that moment, I seemed to sense someone nearby. I turned around, and the video cut off. The footage was shaky. Clearly, the person filming was scared, faced with the disappointment in her eyes. I paused and asked, "Can I ask who filmed this?" Her expression turned sharp. "Are you planning to go after the person who filmed it?" "George, I don't care what kind of person you were at your old school, but at our school, we do not tolerate bullying. Do you understand?" I sighed and said, "I didn't bully anyone. I saved her. Today, Pablo had something come up at home, so I figured, since I was already late, I might as well take the bus on my own." I cut through the alley as a shortcut and saw a girl choking, her face pale. Probably ate something too fast and got stuck. I performed the Heimlich maneuver, slapped her back to help her breathe. Luckily, she finally came around, then sat on the ground catching her breath. I stood up, exhausted, and tried to comfort her, but she started rambling about how she wanted her parents to make a banner to thank me. I quickly stopped her. I'd nearly been falsely accused for helping someone before. Gotta be cautious, especially since there were no security cameras around. Didn't expect that kind of footage to end up being recorded anyway. And the angle blocked her completely. It only captured my face. The head teacher clearly didn't believe me and kept staring at me with suspicion. I said, "Don't worry, teacher. I'll find that girl to testify for me." She thought for a moment, then said, "All right, I'll give you the day off. If you need to access surveillance footage, just use my name. I hope this is all a misunderstanding. If I've wrongly accused you, I'll publicly apologize to you in front of the whole class." I froze for a second, then my expression softened a bit. Honestly, having a teacher this responsible is a blessing for the students. Chapter 8. Smack. I slammed the table hard and shouted in anger, "I, the Emperor, have fallen into a trap." After I told the whole story to my curious classmates, everyone decided to help however they could. Anna stood up and declared, "We're going to investigate her, even if we have to follow her outside of school." Alicia was more rational. She pulled out an A4 sheet of paper and said, "Describe her appearance. That way we can work more efficiently." I felt truly comforted and replied, "There's no doubt the imperial advisor is one of my most loyal and valuable ministers." Only David scoffed in disdain. "Emperor, please. The feudal age died centuries ago. Keep flattering him blindly. Just know, the higher you lift him, the harder the fall will be." I looked at him in surprise, and I had to admit, he did have a point. So I responded, "Very well. One who dares point out the Emperor's flaws deserves a great reward." He froze, stunned, and I took the chance to shove into his hand the disgusting milk I didn't want to drink. He gritted his teeth and said, You. Apparently, his upbringing didn't allow him to waste food. Amid the group's laughter, he was left there, holding that hot potato, his face turning completely green. Once we finished the sketch, the others photocopied it and went off to the other classrooms to search for the girl. Anna and Alicia went to check the school's entrance security footage and found that the girl hadn't shown up today. Luckily, we managed to confirm which class she belonged to and got her contact info. But her testimony alone wasn't enough. We needed objective evidence. Otherwise, we couldn't rule out the possibility she might lie under threat. I returned to the scene to investigate. Several cars were parked nearby. If any had captured footage with their dashcams, that would be perfect. I left that task to my dad. As for me, I of course went home to rest. After all, it was a rare day off. However, after only 20 minutes of sleep, I couldn't resist and started doing exercises. A worthy emperor must be diligent and disciplined, never falling into indulgence and laziness. I smiled while muttering, "Summoning everyone just for something so trivial. Don't you people have anything better to do? Polar coordinates and parametric equations. Good for you, aligning just in time. But if you challenge me, the emperor, it won't end well. Functions and derivatives. You always try to embarrass me in front of everyone. One day, I'll wipe out your entire family." I was so absorbed in my battle with the exercises that I lost all sense of the world around me, until I suddenly heard someone calling me. I looked up and froze. At some point, two heads had appeared at the window. One had a mischievous and sweet expression, eyebrows raised in a playful smile. The other looked cool and distant, but a faint smile touched her lips. It seemed they had been listening to me for a while. Anna blinked and said in English, To see your majesty so full of life puts our hearts at ease. Ah, so they came to comfort me. I quickly regained my composure, nodded calmly, and spoke with imperial serenity. Thanks to my loyal ministers. Why don't you come in through the door like proper guests, and we'll solve these exercises together. Catching the hint, Anna touched her nose a bit sheepishly and quickly said, "It was Alicia's idea. She was worried about you and dragged me along." Alicia ignored her, simply reached out, took my exercise sheet, and asked, "Which ones can't you solve?" Just as she finished speaking, a cold gust of wind blew in from outside, and Anna sneezed at the perfect moment. The three of us exchanged glances, and then burst out laughing. Today is the winter solstice. I wonder if it'll snow this year. I've already started looking forward to it. Chapter 9. The next day, the girl I had saved really came to the office with a commendation banner. When she heard I'd been misunderstood as a bully, she was furious. She snapped, "It must have been someone who has a grudge against you, spreading rumors on purpose." That video was cut so short, just one more second and the truth would have come out. Meanwhile, my dad had successfully contacted the car owner and obtained the full dashcam footage. He was shouting about seeking justice for me, but I stopped him. After all, the misunderstanding was resolved, and that was enough. Besides, if I had actually been bullying someone, the person who filmed it would have been doing the right thing. The head teacher kept her promise and apologized to me in front of the whole class. She said, "I must reflect on my own actions. I judged George too quickly and even made him stand as punishment. I sincerely apologize. This incident has reminded me that, as a teacher, I must have more faith in my students. George was late because he was helping someone. That's something to be proud of. It deserves applause and recognition." As soon as she finished speaking, the class erupted into applause, all smiles on their faces. The head teacher gave a warm smile. She added, "The reward I promised will always be valid. Come to me anytime to claim it." I nodded, feeling a bit embarrassed, because honestly, I did oversleep that day. After class, I gave a carton of milk to every student in the class as a thank you gift, including David. What surprised me was, apparently, he'd actually helped out a bit yesterday, too. Right now, David was quieter than usual, not even lifting his head the whole time. I withdrew my gaze indifferently, but when he came out of the office looking downcast, I suddenly popped out from around the corner and startled him. Absolute cruelty leads to tyranny. Too much kindness becomes weakness. A qualified emperor must temper mercy with an edge. I said coldly, "I knew it was you. Now tell me, why did you slander me?" To my surprise, the next second, he dropped to his knees with a thud, his voice trembling. "This is all my fault, but I really thought you were bullying her at the time." I was stunned. Once I processed what he said, I quickly reached out to pull him up, but he refused to rise, just kept muttering apologies. Face dark, I said, "Stop kneeling already." "What? Do you want people to think I'm bullying you now?" He sprang to his feet at once, though his lips were still quivering. I led him to a quiet corner. I asked, "David, did you come after me because you were bullied once, and now you think I'm just like them? You've got the highest grade in political science in the whole class. How could you still make such a sweeping judgment?" His voice was thick with guilt. He said, "I'm sorry." I sighed. "Well, since you're owning up to it so sincerely, I've decided. Let me tell you a little fairy tale." Chapter 10. Once upon a time, the emperor and the empress lived in a castle deep in the forest with their crown prince. One day, a wicked witch turned the crown prince into a frog. David interrupted me. "Wait a minute. Isn't the cultural background of your story a bit messed up? Wasn't it supposed to be a royal prince who turns into a frog?" But under the emperor's majestic gaze, he lowered his head again. "My mom passed away early. I was raised by my dad alone. When I was 8, my dad was working at a construction site. His wages had been delayed for a long time. To pay for my tuition, he went to confront the site manager multiple times, only to be insulted, and even physically assaulted. My dad couldn't take it anymore. He gave the guy a shove, and the men stumbled backward, landing on a steel bar and dying on the spot. Fortunately, other workers testified in my dad's favor. He was sentenced to 3 years. I was entrusted to my uncle and aunt, but living under someone else's roof was tough. They often scolded me, calling me a jinx, saying my mom died because of me, and my dad went to jail because of me, too. And if that's how the adults acted, the kids just followed suit. My cousin would grab me by the neck and punch me in the stomach. While hitting me, he'd curse, "Die, you damned jinx." It was during that time that I met Willow. Willow was a rich girl who came to spend summer at her grandma's place. When she saw what was happening, she stepped up without hesitation. She scolded my cousin for 2 full hours, without repeating herself once. At that moment, I thought, if a man could marry a woman like this, what more could he ask for? But when she found out I called myself the Crown Prince, she laughed too. She said, "Well, guess I'm getting a pretty good deal. But let's make one thing clear, you can only ever have me as your Crown Princess." Sadly, we were destined to go our separate ways. She wanted to be my one and only crown princess. But I couldn't remain the crown prince forever. Sooner or later, I had to ascend the throne. Fortunately, after my dad got out, our luck turned around. Our old house got demolished for redevelopment. He won the lottery. Then he caught the rise of the internet economy, and his business grew rapidly. He became a well-known nouveau riche. He told me I'd never have to worry about money for the rest of my life. At first, I was planning to just be a spoiled, useless ruler. But one day, I overheard a client bragging to my dad about how his son had gotten into a top-tier university. My dad stared at the acceptance letter in the photo for a long time. His face wore a polite smile, but in his eyes, I saw genuine envy. That same client who was praising my dad's son in front of him later made a call behind his back and sneered. He's just some ex-con, a shallow upstart. His kid will grow up to be trash just like him. From that moment, I decided I'd start studying hard. A dragon's son will always be a dragon. David bowed his head even lower, as if guilt was about to crush him. He murmured, "Then this crown prince is really something." I smiled faintly and said, "What I want to say is, don't let others define you. Always believe in yourself. A crown prince is still a crown prince. Even if someone turns him into a frog, as long as he never forgets who he is, he'll never be stuck in the mud. Same goes for gold. Only a fool can't see its worth, but anyone with taste can spot its glow instantly." David froze. I suddenly closed the distance between us, gripped his shoulders, and said sternly, "You're the same. A man should kneel to no one. Stand up straight, no kneeling allowed." I knew David had always struggled with deep insecurity. The school regularly posted grade rankings on the bulletin board, while everyone else's photos showed confidence and pride. David's eyes were filled with fear and self-doubt. Even though he was already ranked second in the entire grade, people still stared at his photo and gossiped. "He looks like such a creep. How the hell did he get second place?" "Hey, keep it down," the first guy snapped back. "What? Oh please, stop simping for him. Can't even speak the truth now." David glanced at me, and to my surprise, his eyes were slightly red. The next second, "What are you two doing?" Anna and Alicia came down the stairs. Their uncertain eyes shifted back and forth between me and David. I was speechless, no idea what the two of them were imagining. I calmly brushed the dust off my clothes and said, "It's nothing. Class is about to start. Let's go." Chapter 11. The weather was getting colder, and many parents had started bringing lunch to their children. For me, mooching lunch had become part of my daily routine. Anna always invited me enthusiastically to try the dishes prepared by her family's chef. They say they hired him with a large sum of money. Today's meal, as always, was delicious. I nodded in satisfaction, and just as I was about to take another bite with my chopsticks, Alicia stopped me. Alicia said, "The rules of our ancestors are clear. No more than 3 bites of the same dish, or you'll get tired of it. As the emperor, you should distribute imperial favor evenly. Come on, try mine." She had a point. I nodded solemnly and redirected my chopsticks. Anna clicked her tongue and said, "Where did you get that rule from? Our emperor eats whatever he pleases." "Alicia, you're just jealous because he likes mine better, right?" Alicia rolled her eyes and replied, "You think your food's that good? Let him try mine first, and if he's disappointed, then you can mock me." Besides, she added seriously, "The emperor works day and night. He needs to strengthen his immune system, and that requires a balanced diet. Yours is full of fat and salt. How can he eat that?" Anna shot back, "What a hypocrite. Isn't mine nutritious too?" I asked the chef to make sure it was balanced. "You, pretentious coquette, will say anything to drag me down." The two of them once again fell into their own little parallel world and couldn't escape. I silently picked up my tray and returned to my seat. A moment later, David discreetly pushed a small pot of soup toward me, scratched his head, and muttered, "It's black chicken soup my mom made, really nutritious. Want to try it?" Truth be told, I was already full, but if I turned him down, would he kneel again? So, to save face, I drank it all. Seeing his eyes sparkle with anticipation, I sincerely praised him. "Your mom's cooking is amazing, restaurant quality. If she opened one, it would be an instant hit." The corners of his lips curled up proudly. "Wow, at least you know how to recognize something good," he said, clearly pleased. I smiled without answering, cleaned the table, and got ready to continue with the exercises. Suddenly, he poked me with the tip of his pen and said, "If there's anything you don't understand, just ask me. After all, I'm better than Anna." That was a pleasant surprise. I had long wanted to learn his study methods, and said excitedly, "My loyal subject, your willingness to ease my burdens truly pleases me. A reward is in order." He kicked his chair back, about to express his gratitude for the imperial grace, but I swiftly pressed him down. Chapter 12. The shadows passing under the camphor trees gradually changed, from 3 people to 4. As winter deepened, our clothes grew thicker too. Before we realized it, the new year had arrived. As a proper nouveau riche family, We loved decorating the house in red and gold, lively, festive, the whole works. On the 5th day of the new year, my friends were supposed to come over to celebrate. My dad was bustling in the kitchen, all smiles in his apron, eager to cook them a hearty meal to thank them for helping me with school. Unfortunately, before the friends arrived, the exiled one did. Still in his apron, Dad came out with a cheerful grin, only to frown the second he saw Willow. Well, if it isn't Miss Lou herself, a humble nouveau riche family like ours surely isn't worthy of such a guest. Willow stood there with a New Year gift, fidgety and sheepish. Uncle Wong. I was wrong before. I came today to apologize to George for the way I acted. She paused, then added, my dad said, our families still do business together, so I shouldn't ruin the relationship because of personal stuff. Most likely, her family sent her to smooth things over. I glanced at the tea cake in her hand. It was the kind my dad liked. Well, no reason to refuse it. I patted my dad on the shoulder and said, it's the new year. A guest is a guest. He gave a cold snort and returned to the kitchen. Now the living room was just me and Willow. From the beginning, she hadn't dared look me in the eye. I poured her a glass of water. I asked, Uncle Lou and the others doing well lately? Willow took the cup and forced a smile. They're good. They mention you a lot, say it's been too long since you visited. I smiled back. Been busy with school. I'll drop by when I get the chance. Once the small talk ended, silence fell. The atmosphere grew heavy and awkward. I got up, planning to grab a set of practice papers, but she suddenly called out to me. Her eyes were slightly red at the corners, and her voice strained. You really don't care about me at all anymore? I thought for a second and said, oh, you and your boyfriend doing okay? Willow shot to her feet, panic flashing across her eyes. I broke up with Makoto. No, we weren't even together. That WeChat post was just to get back at you. But when her eyes met my calm gaze, she quickly looked away, like she'd been burned. Her voice dropped even lower. The truth is, the one I've always liked is. Suddenly, a sarcastic voice rang out. Well, is this the legendary crown princess I'm seeing? Anna cut her off with a grin, followed by a clearly unamused Alicia and David. Anna wore a modern red cheapao-style outfit, her bangs brushed up into a fluffy bun, adorned with the hair clip I gave her. My eyes lit up. I genuinely praised her. Red suits you. You look beautiful. Anna blushed, gave a little snort, and mumbled, if your majesty likes it, I'll wear it more often. My dad popped his head out, voice uncharacteristically warm. Dinner will be ready in 30 minutes. Thank you, uncle, they all chimed. As Anna began questioning why Willow was even here, Alicia stepped in front of me, blocking my view with a smile. I made a new targeted worksheet based on your final exam mistakes. Want to see it? I answered. Yes. I took her hand and headed upstairs. A faint smirk played at her lips, barely concealing the glimmer of satisfaction in her eyes. David noticed first. He gritted his teeth and muttered, Anna, are you dumb? They're already gone. Anna realized it a beat too late and stomped in frustration. Forget Willow, she stormed up the stairs. David crossed his arms and turned to face Willow, whose face had gone pale. She stared blankly toward the stairs, stunned that she had just been completely forgotten. After savoring her defeated expression for a moment, David delivered the final blow. He sneered. Would have been a perfect fairy tale ending. Too bad. When your character doesn't match your role, disaster's bound to follow. You built your golden house, but the girl inside was never meant to stay. Willow's head snapped up. She understood every word. Her eyes burned, and she could no longer hold back the tears. When all the dishes were finally ready, I glanced toward the living room. Only the untouched glass of water remained on the table. No one mentioned her, and I didn't ask. Everyone else was cheerful and relaxed. New year, new beginnings. Chapter 13. Once the new semester started, it was full speed ahead with last-minute reviews and patching up knowledge gaps. My desk mates rotated from David to Anna to others. Some classmates were recommended for direct admission. Some were headed overseas. In the end, only about a dozen of us were taking the National College Entrance exam the traditional way. I became the focus of every subject teacher. They called me a dark horse, and said that meant I needed to be pushed harder, no room for slacking. Already spinning like a top, I got pulled for even more extra sessions. I started wishing I could split my sleeping hours in half just to get more time in. But I genuinely enjoyed this feeling of every bit of effort yielding something in return. The kingdom I ruled as the emperor, was flourishing. In the monotony of school, time finally marched its way to June. With the ringing of the final exam bell, everything was over. My dad came to pick me up, grinning from ear to ear, but didn't ask me a single thing. I figured he must be really confident in how I did. Until score release day, when I caught him secretly burning incense at the altar for my mom. His hands trembling, he whispered, Empress Dowager, you've gotta bless our emperor. Let him slap those treacherous ministers and rebels in the face real hard. The results page took forever to load, still no score in sight. My dad forced a smile and said, "Maybe you filled in your answer sheet wrong. It's okay, son, we'll just try again any." I pointed to the fine print at the bottom. "Dad, why don't you read that line?" He leaned in closer to the screen, squinting, his eyes growing wider and wider. It said, "Your ranking is within the top 50 in the entire province. Please check the full details on the 27th. He looked like he had entered another dimension. Only when the phone rang did he snap out of it. Suddenly, he jumped up and let out 3 loud laughs. "Ha ha ha. The Wang family finally produced a once-in-a-generation genius. My dear wife. I knew you were watching from above." Sob, sob, sob. He laughed and cried like he'd won the lottery jackpot. I patted him on the shoulder and said, "Dad, pick up the phone." He wiped his tears, glanced at the caller ID, and instantly plastered on a wide grin. "Yo, old Sue, the scores. Oh, nothing special. Just top 50 in the whole province. That's all. Oh wait, gotta go, the homeroom teacher's calling." He was laughing so hard his belly jiggled, striding off in huge steps. Chapter 14. On the day we filled out our college applications, the 4 of us gathered together. Alicia chose Shanghai University. David and I both chose Peking University. Anna had already received an offer from a top international university. She was headed abroad. To celebrate, my dad picked a lucky day and booked out a hotel to host a graduation banquet for me. I requested a private room, also to give Anna a proper send-off. At the table, Anna was quieter than usual, clearly preoccupied. Alicia and David were acting kind of strange too. Just then, my dad came in carrying the last dish. He beamed and announced, "Wishing you all success, luck like a dragon rising from the sea, wings to soar, bright futures, top scores, prosperity, and everything going your way. Okay, now the menu is complete." Anna blushed and looked at him, saying, "Uncle Wang, you're really so good to George. I love the warmth in your family. I wish you were my dad." My dad smiled so hard his mouth practically reached his ears. He said, "Oh, you flatter me," then turned and immediately recorded a voice message to Uncle Sue. "Your daughter doesn't want you anymore." Alicia's face went black. I glanced around at them all, and suddenly, it clicked. I understood. So I waved my hand and declared, "What's there to be embarrassed about? How about this? From today on, you all officially recognize my dad as your godfather. From now on, we won't be just friends, we'll be imperial family, brothers and sisters in title." David, speechless. Alicia, also speechless. Anna's eyes widened as she shot to her feet. She bit her lip and blurted out, "That's not what I meant. I was trying to say Emperor." Alicia quickly pinched her mouth shut and explained, "We're about to part ways soon." She's just emotional. She emphasized part ways, and Anna froze, without denying it. After my dad left with a cheerful smile, Anna glared fiercely at Alicia. She huffed coldly, "The future's long. Let's see who wins in the end." Alicia took a calm sip of tea and replied, "Looking forward to it." David muttered, "No official titles, no status, and y'all are already acting out a palace drama. Shameless." The 2 girls instantly turned their weapons on him. A verbal battle was inevitable. I quietly slipped away from the war zone. Just as I stepped outside, I bumped into Willow. She looked pale and haggard. Word was she'd been sick recently. Her exam scores had been poor, and the Liu family had decided to send her abroad. As for Makoto, he didn't do well either. I'd read in a WeChat post that after being rejected repeatedly, he'd slapped Willow in a fit of rage. The 2 of them had added plenty more fuel to the school gossip fire. I, the Emperor, have read it. Quite satisfying. So I gave it a like. Chapter 15. Willow pressed her lips together. Looking a bit cautious, she said, "George, I'm going abroad." I nodded. Safe travels." She opened her mouth again, wanting to say more, but a few others walked over and cut her off. David grabbed me, dragging me forward excitedly. "Don't bother with them," he said. "They're about to light the fireworks. If we don't go now, we'll miss it." I replied, "All right." We walked ahead together. Anna and Alicia followed soon after, and Willow finally realized she couldn't even touch the hem of my coat anymore. Whoosh! A dazzling firework exploded in the night sky, illuminating all of our futures. I tilted my head back, quietly admiring it. Under my rule, the rivers run clear, the seas are calm, the times are harmonious, the harvests are bountiful. From this point on, may the road ahead be smooth.